Rebecca Davis, a weird, scary, and interesting. And today's episode is part 2 of the former monarchies series of ancient times. Since last week, if anybody checked out last week's episode, was part 1 of former monarchy ancient times series. And that was the first part, which we explored the early Bronze Age and found out there was 10 kingdoms lost in that time frame. So we're going to be exploring the Middle Bronze Age. Okay. For anyone that didn't catch last week's episode, I will explain what former monarchies are all about. And yes, if anybody noticed, I did screw up a little, just a little bit, and got the two kingdoms mixed up last week. That it got Van Lang and Knish mixed up. Sorry. My brain wasn't braining last week, as a friend of mine says. So, hopefully I don't screw up this time. Hopefully. Oh well, we're only humans. Now, a little refresh of what former monarchies are. So, former monarchies refers to a system of government, historically or currently, where a monarch, like a king or a queen, or as last week I was explaining, some places in the planet used to have shahs, like Russia used to have a czar. There was emperors and empresses. India had Mughals. In India had their own, actually India had quite a different types of monarchies through history. And you get into pre-Columbia and into pre-American history. There's Mesoamerican cultures, like they had their own types of rulers, like they would have like chiefs, like you see in Native Americans. Even in Canada we have our chiefs. So it is just a title of the person that ruled over those places or tribes. Like Ireland, they had high kings at one time. And they ruled, but have since been abolished. So a lot of these kingdoms we're going to be exploring through each of the series through my channel through each season will a lot of these kingdoms have been abolished are not around anymore, but there has some that made a comeback, like Spain or England. Had their comebacks, but then there's some that had a comeback and then the comeback didn't work well, like say France, for example. They had, like I said last week, had they went through a period of having got rid of the monarch, and then they brought the monarchy back, and then they got rid of the monarch. It's like a little song I have for it, kind of like, like the hokey pokey, except it's the monarchy hokey pokey. You take the monarchy in, you take the monarchy, you put the monarchy in, you take the monarchy out, you put the monarchy in, you shake it all about. Even Greece had their period of had they had their monarchy and then they took it out, and it was like that for a while till the 70s. And then uh, since been abolished or been replaced by other forms of government. So, as I said last week, such as republics, because some places like Romania and Greece, and at one time Spain had its little monarchy till their dictator died and the monarchy came back because his successor was the current Spanish king's father, Juan Carlos. Even Italy had it was a republic at one time after the Italian government during during the Second World War there. Romania Republic. There's just a few that even England at one time was a republic for a little bit because of the when Oliver Cromwell was king. I mean, not king. Lord Protector of the Commonwealth. Sorry, and we'll learn about those kingdoms in later series. Just for example, of certain places that have republics. I guess you could say China has their own republic too. Okay, that's what former monarchies are. So, ancient, but you know what? Republics are not. Oh, remind you. Like last week, I was trying to tell you. Was explaining. Not all republics are become become communist. Like, let's use France for example. France, as kind of screwed up a little bit. France is not communist. It has its own constitutional government, and so a little different than communism. Because it's you can vote for whoever you like, and then and they make the laws, and you're free to do what you like, but it's a little. I hear it's a little different over in France of their laws and that, but it's not communist. Communist and constitutional is a little different. So it's two different types of of republics. Communists is there's some guy forcing you to live the way they think it's fit to. They want you to live forcefully. Constitutional is you're go by laws that you're free to choose, and you're supposed to have free speech, um, and you're free to live your own life. So constitutional and communist are way different. Um, okay. As I say, that's what former monarchies are, because some former monarchies have now turned into republics where there's dictatorship, like some places that we see in Asia, and some places in Europe, um, and or there's the constitutional republics. Uh, but, so anyway, it's not that bad, and anyway, yeah. So here we go. Now we'll explain and go over what ancient times are now for some people that may not have caught episode 1. And if you haven't, go check episode 1. You might laugh at me screwing up. Anyways, ancient times, for the ones that haven't, may have not checked out episode 1 of this series. Ancient times refers to a period of history that spans from the earliest known civilizations to roughly the fall of the Western Roman Empire in AD 476, encompassing a vast stretch of human history and culture. So, yeah, we are, like last episode of this series of the former monarchy, ancient times series, we're going back in time in history and exploring former monarchies that do not exist. And nowadays they are considered as different countries now. It's kind of almost like the world evolution, that everything changes over history. So, Middle Bronze Age is the second episode of this former monarchy ancient times series. So, for you, if you want to know, former monarchy ancient times is the first series out of this whole former monarchy series. So over time we're gonna explore different time frames in history, that a bunch of monarchies that went bye-bye. So we just kind of have to start from the earliest part of history and work to modern age. There's a lot of kingdoms that disappeared over time. And some we probably never heard of. Okay. Let's learn all about former monarchies from ancient times, part 2. Middle Bronze Age, and we will learn about the Middle Bronze Age era. What the Middle Bronze Age is about. While we're having a storm outside. We're getting little boomers outside. Now, we had a little storm last night, so I guess it's part 2 today. Like last week, I tried to replicate the fashion from that era. Yeah, look it up. It's more somewhat gold. They love gold, probably. I know, there's nothing wrong with it. Okay. Now, we do this before, hopefully, the hydro doesn't go out with the storm. Yeah. Okay, now let's get into it. Middle Bronze Age era. That's what we're gonna be learning about today. The Middle Bronze Age era is a sub-time period around 2000 BCE. So yeah, all the way back in history. In which civilizations began to expand and empires were created. So a lot of the empires we know in history are popping up in this time frame. Advanced structures and cities popped up all over the world thanks to Bronze Age construction tools. Many civilizations began to introduce complex writing systems and advanced urban planning. In this time period, there was 5 kingdoms that stopped existing because something stopped them from existing. So, not as many as last week's episode when we learned about the early Bronze Age, that we had 10. Just 5 of them went poof. So we'll find out what caused these 5 to go bye-bye out of history. Okay. Let's get into it. Number 1, Amorite Kingdom. Amorite Kingdom was a Middle Eastern kingdom that was from 2000 BC until 1595 BC, when the Amorite Kingdom in Mesopotamia declined and eventually ended around 1595 BC due to a combination of factors, including the Hittite sack of Babylon and the rise of new groups like the Casimites and Hurrians. The Amorite period came to the end in the 16th century BC, with the Kassites taking control of Babylon and establishing the Kassite dynasty. The team of Amorite also gradually shifted, referring to the region of Syria and Canaan, with the Amorites of Mesopotamia seemingly migrating westward. The Amorite kingdom was ruled by various Amorite kings, mostly notably by, hopefully I guess this guy's name right, Ham, Abi of Babylon. Other Amorite rulers include Sin, Balit, and Samsu Iluna, and those who ruled smaller Amorite kingdoms in the areas like Ekatum and Mari, and the Levant. So yeah, at least that one it was easy to pronounce. So yeah, so there's a reason it got had some factors like that the Atagas took it out, sacked the Babylon and different things. And Syria is, you'll recognize, it's still around today. So it would have been about the time that Syria started popping up. And Canaan, that's mentioned in the Bible. Yeah. So there you go. Yeah, it's snowy. It's stuff. There you go. At least my brain is actually working today with my tongue. Not like last week. And Anita's laughing off camera. Oh my. There we go. And you know what happened to Amorite kingdom. Okay, let's move on from the Amorite kingdom to number 2. And it's the kingdom of Assyria. The kingdom of Assyria was a Middle Eastern kingdom that was from 2000 BC until 605 BC, when the kingdom of Assyria fell to the cold proletarian of Babylonians and Midas in the 7th century BC. This conquest, known as the Medo-Babylonian conquest, led to the destruction of Neo-Assyria power. Kingdom of Assyria was ruled by a series of kings from different dynasties over time, with the most noble being Adaside or Adasi, if you want to know how to spell Adasi dynasty, which is beloved by being founded by Bel Bamdi Bamini. Several other kings also play significant roles, including Tiglathi Pileser III. So he's the third guy that had that name. Caesarion, that's Caesarion, and that's from last episode. Sergian the second. Sin na Cher Abib Esar had a dawn, and Ashur ban I Pel. These kings oversaw periods of both expansion and construction of the Assyrian power. So yeah, here you go. So that guy that was part of the fall to the kingdom of Syrian, Medius. It's quite an interesting character. So yeah, Midas. I wonder if that sounds like the guy that is supposed to have that legendary power of turning everything into gold. He's probably from this era. That's probably why they loved gold so much. I guess we'll have to find out. So there you go. That's why Assyria, Kingdom of Assyria, doesn't exist anymore. Because of it got its kingdom conquested. So, you know. So there we go. We got two Middle Eastern kingdoms that disappeared in this time period. The Merarite and Kingdom of Syria. Let's see if there's any more Middle Eastern kingdoms through this time period. So let's move on to number 3. Oh. And number 3 is the Kingdom of Larsa. Kingdom of Larsa was a Middle Eastern kingdom. Hey, 3 for 3. 3. You got 3 so far. 3 Middle Eastern kingdoms. Okay. This one was from 1961 BC, not AD, until 1674 BC. When the Kingdom of Larsa fell after the defeat of Ramsin I by Hammurabi Babylon. So there, he was mentioned before. I guess Babylon's been mentioned a lot so far in this. Will be mentioned a lot in this video so far. Kingdom of Larsa became a major site through it has been suggested that it was the home of the first Sealand dynasty of Babylon. So there was a dynasty possibly this was the place where the Sealand dynasty was from. It was from Babylon. I thought it would be an interesting last name, Sealand, wouldn't it? Be a little different name. Okay. The Kingdom of Larsa was ruled by various kings throughout its history. Key rulers include King Gun Yum. Okay, I'll tell you what. I know I didn't tell you all of wherein these rulers of different kingdoms ruled, but some of these I found the time frame they ruled from. King Gun Yum ruled from 1932 to 1906 BC. Yeah, really, I don't know how why the years are flipped. I guess it's how they figured it out, the time frame. So I know it looks weird to me. So could be weird to other people too. Oh well. And King Ramsin the First. That would be a badass rapper's name, Ramsin. King Ramsin the First ruled from 1822 to 1763 BC, who were particularly well documented. Additionally, Qdiru Ma'abuk, Will not, 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 Ma'ab while not a king in traditional sense, played a significant role in shaping the kingdom's power, particularly as the father of the kings or Aransin and Rimsin. Okay, so we're gonna listen. He was the guy that you could say, yeah, you know how England and other monarchies. Oh my God! Is it safe for me to sit by this window? I just caught a glimpse of, like, okay, we're moving.
Yeah.
Okay, we're good. We'll sit here. At least we should be away from the window. I just got lightning on my video. And that's a dean in the background, if you're wondering. So we're going to be sitting here for the rest of our middle pronunciation.
There's a stash.
And a stashinator in the back. So
It's gonna be till next week.
yeah, it's me and her's birthday. Me and Stashinator's birthday next week on the 30th. So
31st.
31st.
You do know.
Oh, so yeah. There you go. Okay, what I was gonna say before I got lightning on my video. That this guy Q Duru Amabuka, I guess as they say, some kingdoms, like the United Kingdom and some other kingdoms, they would call their, usually hear it for the women, that is, you have the mother of the queen, or the mother of the king. But I guess in this guy, we could call this guy Q Abduru Mabuki K would be the father of the kings. So I guess these two must have been brothers, Rad Sin and Rin Sin. So you call their dad the father of the kings. Kind of like King Charles's grandma was called the Queen Mom. So he would be the king dad. But he wasn't technically a king in traditional sense, because I guess he just was the guy that had a couple of kids that ruled kingdom of Larse. Yeah. There, we'll call him the king's father. King's father, plural. So, because he had two sons that ruled Larsa. There you go. We have weather, and we're learning about history all at the same time. Okay, let's move on from the king of Losse to a kingdom that we've been hearing about a lot in this video, and I think I've mentioned it about almost a billion times in the early Bronze Age episode from last week. And this kingdom is at a number 4, and it is Babylon. Babylonia, or Babylon is for short, was a Middle Eastern kingdom from 1830 BC until 732 BCE. If I'm right, I think it used. This is the place that Iraq used to be. Way back in the middle of Bronze Age, way back in history. Yeah. 1830 to 1830 BC until 732 BCE, when Babylonia fell, and because it was conquered and absorbed into larger empires over time. It was first conquered by the Persian Empire. And we know Persia was Iran one time, so. And that was in 539 BCE. Okay. Then later, by Alexander the Great. You should remember this guy. I was talking about him last week when I was talking about ancient Egypt, and I was mentioning that Cleopatra's dad was part of Alexander the Great's army. He was like a general or commander. I can't remember, but he was part of it somehow. So that would be in 331 BC, after Alexander's death. And Alexander the Great, you think of it, he conquered a lot. And he named practically almost anything that he conquered after him. Whether he named it Alexander or Alexandria, the female name version of Alexander. Two of my favorite baby names. And Babylonia became the part of the Seleucid Empire. Babylonia was ruled by various individuals and dynasties throughout its historical. Individually, it was under the rule of the Amorite. You remember the Amorite kingdom? you remember this guy, King Ham Amu Ra Abai, who established the old Babylonian Empire later, and the Neo-Babylonian Empire was ruled by kings like King Nebuchadnezzar II. That guy's mentioned in the Bible. It was eventually conquered by the Achaemenid Empire under Cyrus the Great. See, my brain's working this time. Well, I couldn't do last week. Okay. So there you go. Babylon, as I said. So that would be so far 1, 2, 3. So Babylonia would be, or Babylon, would be our fourth former Middle Eastern kingdom. So that's pretty good for yeah. And yeah. So I wonder if our fifth one is from Middle East or somewhere else. We'll have to find out. Yeah, in which it would be. We'll move on from Babylonia to our fifth and final one. Yeah, it's not as big episode as last week. It's not as big as what we're going to see in the Iron Age episode. So, okay, our fifth and final kingdom from the Middle Bronze Age episode is the Mycenaean was a southeastern European kingdom. I guess we only got 4 Middle Eastern kingdoms, so we're moving to Europe. Southeastern Europe. Okay. Yeah. Southeastern Kingdom. That was from 1900 BC until 1100 BC. I think I'm alright when I mentioned about the Minoans from last week's episode. I mentioned the Mycenaeans. These were the guys that were suggested that might have conquered. Actually, they were just coming up around the end of the Minoan era. Okay. So the Mycenaeans were from 1900 BC until 1100 BC. When the large natural disasters such as earthquakes and volcano eruptions, kind of like the Minoans, they had a volcano erupt that took them out. And evidence by broken pottery, damaged walls. Well, earthquakes would do a lot of damage. Like volcanoes would do a lot of damage. You know, what we see from Pompeii. that mainly everybody was covered in ash and frozen in history. These these disasters would have been devastating, and volcano eruptions could have impacted the climate. Yeah, it could be because when a volcano erupts, ash goes up into the air and blocks out the sun. Kind of like, how a forest fire, you have the smoke come. The ash travels too. Yeah, that's why a volcano erupts today. Like, I think I just heard that it was in Hawaii. One of theirs erupted not long ago. So that usually today, if a volcano erupts, uh, they just shut down. They cancel flights because it's hard for the pilots to fly because they can't see in front of them when there's ash in the air, smoke in the air, and the lava takes a lot of trees and that. There's a lot of movies that show dictate about volcanoes and what they actually do. I would suggest one good movie would be Dante's Peak. Uh, it's they were built near a volcano and they thought that the thing wasn't going to go, but obviously it did. So that'd be a good one to check out if you want to see what a volcano does. Or thinking with National Geographic. Or just check out some photos online. Okay. Climate. Mycenaean civilization was ruled by kings, referred to the Waniks in Lunar B script, or Anax in Homeric poems. Homer, the Greek poet. That's the guy that you remember me talking about Atlantis last year for last year when last January when I did my series about lands that about certain lands, and it had the mythical lands, and I mentioned about Atlantis. This is the guy in one of his poems. He mentioned about talking about in some one of the stories he had. He was talking about this mythical land that was supposed to exist, but he more or less heard. He was passed, and it was an oral story he heard over the year heard it from another guy, and I think the other guy heard from another guy, and one of them heard it from some guy in ancient Greece. It's kind of like, the tale of phone. The game, phone game that you tell one tale and it's passed on. Yeah. That's who started the tale, is more famous uh, of telling the tale of Atlantis. Hold on, I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. As we were talking, that Homer is uh, Homer, the Greek poet from ancient Greece, is the guy that started is more famous for telling the tale of Atlantis. So yeah, so that's where it's but he heard it from somebody else, and that guy heard it from somebody else. It's more or less is an oral story that was passed through the years. Okay. Anyways, these kings held supreme authority and were considered religious leaders as well as rulers. Kind of like, you remember when I mentioned our in the early Bronze Age, our first former kingdom was the indigenous valley, and its ruler, it said it people think that it could be the guy that ruled it could have been um, a priest king. It's a little different title than a plain old king. Uh, but it's the same idea of, like King Charles. He's also the king, and plus he's in charge of the Church of England. I know people have their views on him, but uh, that's the job mostly of kings. They have several things they do. Uh, but at this time that it was a little different. There was no constitutional monarchy existed. Uh, it was a supreme ruler. They were the guys that ruled over everything. Uh, they were the ones making the laws and the religious, looking after the religious, being the religious leaders, the head of the church. Kind of the idea how mainly and that usually as old rulers do. Um, the Wanax also oversaw lawmaking and taxes. So a lot of monarchs back in history, way before the idea of constitutional monarchy, uh, were the guys making the laws. Um, like wearing no blue on Saturday, or um, or taxing you to unbelief. Uh, but I know in Europe, in a lot of places in Europe, a lot of the nobles uh, helped to were in charge of collecting the taxes, and then a lot of the nobility he's kind of in the olden days try to double tax. That's why you see a lot of the idea of if you if you ever seen Robin Hood, is based around my ancestor, King John's era when he ruled. Uh, Robin Hood and the Band of the Merry Man, and with Marian, and yeah, that's a good example that uh, there's the sheriff Nottingham. Uh, at that time frame, that you would see a lot of the nobles being in charge of being tax, looking after the taxes for the king or the queen or whoever. Uh, at one time in history, it was more believed that men could rule, not women. But it was more their family, what they believed back then. So, the Maya Syrians, so since I mentioned it last week, it would have been, this location would have been around ancient Greece. Um, a lot of, ancient Greece had a lot of those ancient kingdoms like Troy and all the other places. So, which ancient Greece is very fascinating to me with its ancient gods and because it was broken. It was like one of those kingdoms, countries that we know today that were at one time made up to different kingdoms. And Athens, which is the capital today of Greece, it was its own kingdom, and we're going to mention it in, I think, in another series. I think it would be maybe series 2. I'll just check it, because I'm not sure myself. Yeah, so next year we'll mention Athens, which would have been a kingdom until 338 BC. So there was even Greece. There was Sparta. That's the place that they gone into battle. They had really strict rules on their army and everything from baldness to butt naked. Those will be mentioned in series 2, Antiquity. So, yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, we got our only South European kingdom that went way in this era, the Middle Bronze Age. So, yeah. So, yeah. So it's kind of like So I guess it had about the same. The Mycenaeans, uh, they disappeared because it was the same. What they, the same thing as the Minoans. It has its volcano eruption and it took it out. And like example, Pompeii. We all know what happened to Pompeii. Uh, a volcano took it out and froze this whole village in Pompeii in time. It's like it reminds me of has anybody ever seen that movie? This, I think the the last. If I'm right, I think it was the last night of the museum when they went over to England's museum, England's Natural History Museum. And there's like in the movie. There's a Pompeii exhibit, and these two little miniature uh, little miniature Roman and cowboy. They wandered into the Pompeii exhibit, and they were trying to figure out what this little bust of this the Roman guy was saying. Hold on. So we were talking that the night in museum, since I mentioned Pompeii, that in the movie there's a little bust of this Roman, and he was trying to warn the cowboy and the little Roman soldier that they were in Pompeii, but since the little glass covers over him, the soldier and the cowboy could not hear him saying Pompeii, and 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 the kind of the rodents turned around and the guy trying to say it loudly, and eventually the little soldier's looking around and going, "This place looks familiar," and then he's like, Pompeii." and then and they started running because lava's coming closer, and eventually this little monkey that's with them peed out the lava. So, volcano can do as much destruction as an earthquake can. Yeah, an earthquake can topple buildings. Volcano can stop an airport from flying its planes, and it could wipe out cities. But hell, even the dinosaurs should know what volcano uh, does. Volcanoes were around when the dinosaurs walked the earth before we lived. That's millions of years ago. So yeah. Uh, so yeah. so yeah. Unless with the earthquake had struck Mycenaean, the pottery would have, wherever it was sitting, probably on a shelf, it would have shook off and broke. And damaged walls from the earthquake, because earthquakes can do big damage. Uh, for example, um, there's uh, San Francisco gets a lot, California gets a lot of earthquakes because it's on the San Andreas fault line. Even British Columbia is on that line too. I know, and it gets but their earthquakes are more. They get it's a lot more uh, damage and destruction, and more common in California than in California and British Columbia. And yeah, Mexico should be on that fault line too. Uh, uh, then on the eastern seaboard, it's like not to offend anybody, that is more or less uh when an earthquake strikes in the eastern seaboard, it shakes, but not violently. It's kind of almost like somebody trying to shake you up, to just gently rocking you to wake up, compared to California. The western seaboard is like somebody violently shaking you to wake you up. The eastern seaboard, when they get earthquakes, like earthquake, wow, don't see that very often. Yeah. Um. So the pottery. So back to Mycenaean is the pottery, and the damaged walls is probably more from the earthquakes, uh, and probably remnants of the volcano, because when a volcano is about to erupt, okay, let's give some education here, more than what we're learning right now. Um, for some of you who don't know, that nothing, but some people do not know that when earthquake strikes, wherever it is, it will bring a little bit of quite a bit of an earthquake with it. Because it's bubbling and gases are going, and it's kind of like, how when you're let's use for example, if you're trying to, if you need a big belch to get the gases going, and when that great big belch out of the volcano goes, um then um then all of a sudden the the yeah, the ash will spark up, kind of like a big old fart or belch. For example, my roommate's trying to be as quiet as she can while I'm explaining about a volcano here. Uh, and and then after that, eventually there will be some lava come out, flow come out. And lava is quite what I've seen. It uh, if we remember from school and learning about dinosaurs and volcanoes. Uh, it depends on how long you've been out of school. Um, I know some of us maybe 50, maybe 20 years, whatever. Um, for me, it's 20 years. Uh, um, that sometimes, like, let's see, the lava brings ash. Oh, it's pretty toxic. Um, kind of almost like the little um, dinosaur that spewts toxin on Jurassic Park. To the guy that we all know as Newman on the Seinfeld. uh, um, it's kind of like that, but more. The little dinosaur stalks used in there in agony, but you step in the volcano's talk, it's you might as well kiss yourself goodbye. So yeah, um, if you want to learn more about volcanoes and um, and um, and earthquakes, there's a lot of movies and shows out there that you could learn about. Uh, Especially there's a lot of movies about Pompeii, so you check that out. Okay. Okay, I better sign off because Anita needs help. So, so now hopefully you enjoyed our little journey to the Middle Bronze Age era. Part of this whole series one of holy crap. A bird just struck the window and scared me. Okay. As I was saying, hopefully you enjoyed our little journey to the Middle Bronze Age um, era. And of her series of former monarchies. Series 1, Former Monarchies Ancient Times. Um, you learned a little bit of 5 more former monarchies. The next 2 weeks is going to be a little shorter. We're going to learn about 3 each monarchies from each different times. Because next week could be the late Asian Bronze Age. Okay. The next series episode of that'd be 3 more, and then that'd be the next 2 parts will be a little shorter. So, but the last one's gonna be longer. So as I say, okay, is if you like this part 2 of the Middle Bronze of the former Monarchies Ancient Times series, you know the drill. Like and subscribe, and don't forget to comment. And also don't forget to check out other episodes of this channel. We are scary and interesting. And so for this season, we got up to, I'm keeping tally. Um, so for this episode, it'd be 43. So, yeah, a lot more than last season. Uh, yeah, 43 seasons, 43 episodes for season 2. So, uh, so as I say, don't forget to check out other the other 42 the other episodes of this channel from season 1 and 2, because there's 20 from last season and 40. Once this is released, it'll be 43 that have been released for season 2. You tell I'm putting more effort than I did last season. So, yeah. So, yeah. So, for now, hopefully you have. For now, I'm going to sign off, and I want to say, hopefully, for the families that have lost loved ones this week, because it's quite uh, a very traumatic week with us losing uh, Jamal, uh, Malcolm Jamal Warner, the guy that played Theo Huxtable on Cosby Show, and Ozzy Osbourne, Hulk Hogan. I just heard a guy from Young and the Restless has passed away, so my sympathies go out to everybody that's for those guys' families this week. I know I'm a Hulkamaniac myself, so I feel the Hogan's feelings. I'm so sorry for everybody that lost their family. Lost those guys this week, so. Um, so, um, so for now, stay safe and hopefully out of the storm, unless it's not storming where you are. Uh, and enjoy the rest of the summer. And till next week, I'll say goodbye. Bye.